Assalamu alaikum and welcome to the Muslim Marriage Podcast, where we talk about healthy relationships from a Muslim lens. I'm Zahra Hassan,
And I'm AJ, and we've been married for 3 years now.
and let's get started.
Let's get started.
On this week's episode, we're going to talk about how to make your spouse happy. Now, this is a huge topic, right? This is a huge sentiment, especially because we didn't separate it out into how to make your husband happy, how to make your wife happy. It's all in one group. And I think that it can all be distilled down into a few points. And those few points, inshallah, are what we're going to cover in today's episode of how to make your spouse in general happy. Happy in the sense of feeling loved within the confines of your relationship. Right? All of that makes sense?
Yeah, I agree. We'll be frank also.
Mm-hmm.
I think the entirety of marriage is how to make your spouse happy.
Yeah, I agree.
I think that's just 100% of the marriage is how do I make that person happy and how do I stay happy?
There you go. But again, it's happy within because happy is a very large word, right? It's a big word. To be
True.
to be completely fulfilled, to be completely satisfied, only Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala can make a human being completely happy.
Mm-hmm.
Many of us have found that out the hard way, right? That you can never make another human being fully happy as a human being yourself.
Yeah.
But within the confines of a healthy marriage, where both of you care about the well-being of the other one, there is a space. When we say happy, what it means is how can you make this other individual feel appreciated, loved, cherished within your marriage? Yeah?
Yeah.
Inshallah, that makes sense. Also, we should say that Jazakallah khair so far for tuning in, and we appreciate all the people who come on week after week. If you've been enjoying our content, please subscribe. It really helps us out to get the information to more people. And that being said, I think we can come to our first question. Yeah?
Let's get started.
Let's get started. So, I know that many of the women, including me, have this question. Alhamdulillah, you're here as the representative of all men to answer it for us. What is it that men want? What does it take for a man to be happy within his relationship?
Okay, so we're gonna ignore Mariah Carey, and we're just gonna say communication is key,
Okay.
right? You want to talk to each other,
Okay.
and you want to make sure that you guys are actually listening to each other and actually absorbing the information of the other. Not just like sweet nothings or like talking points just to say, well, there's our daily quota of talk. Also, you want to be able to like properly express any frustrations that you may have while they're still only frustrations and not like actual issues that spark resentment.
Mm-hmm.
And you want to, at the very least, feel empathy to the point where you're not going to try to pursue winning the argument above all else.
Okay. So what I'm hearing is healthy communication where you feel heard.
Yeah.
Yeah.
For guys, a majority of us growing up are told to suppress, and that's what strong men do.
Yeah. So a safe place where you can express your emotions or express yourself in a way that you are heard and seen.
Yeah.
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 That's beautiful, actually.
Coffee.
Coffee?
A place where I can coffee myself.
Coffee?
Yeah.
Oh, espresso.
A place where I can espresso myself.
It took me too long. I think I'm slipping. And also Mariah Carey.
Oh, wasn't she the one that sang that song, What a Man Wants, or
All
What a
right.
Girl Wants, or something?
I don't know. It might have been her, but yeah, okay.
It could have been her.
That makes sense. So that I've never heard it put that way, and it's very beautiful. And it's really good to know. As a coach, right? Like again, because I'm a woman, I don't know this answer 100%. But as a coach, I can tell you that all the times that I've been coaching couples and I've coaching gentlemen, but also particularly when I'm coaching couples, and this question comes up during the coaching sessions of what is it that you want? What is it that can make you happy? I've just been paying attention. And most of the time, I think based on what they've said, it comes down to two things. And you just let me know if I'm right or wrong. All right? So the first one is respect. Respect. And again, respect is one of those terms that's a very broad term. Well, by respect, I mean feeling trusted by your partner. So, for example, the two of you are driving somewhere. Your husband is the one who's driving. You're in the passenger seat, and you're looking at your Google Maps, and he's clearly going the wrong way, right? Or he misses an exit sign. And part of respect is to, when you ask him and just say, "Oh, is this the way that we're going?" And he'll tell you, "Yeah, no, I know there's traffic down that street. I know a better way." And then to trust him, right? To trust him to go the way that he would have gone had you not been there in the car. And another example I remember that was given by, I believe, Sheikh Yasir Qadhi a long time ago in a very old lecture that was really nice. I think it's still up on YouTube. Where if the both of you are in an elevator, letting your husband press the button. I know it's small, right, and it feels like it's infantilizing, but just letting them be the one to sort of steer the ship. Even though as a woman, we're completely capable of been steering the ship, we've been doing it all our lives, but because it means so much more to him, let him steer the ship as a reminder that I trust you. I trust your judgment. And I'm sure that you're going to be able to accomplish the things that we need accomplished for our family in those little ways. Does that make sense?
I agree. It literally is the man's psyche to protect his loved ones. And part of that protecting his loved ones is making his wife feel like a queen, right?
Yeah.
And like royalty. Like, I don't want you putting your delicate fingers on the nasty elevator buttons. Let's be honest, people. There are the majority of people in the American Western or whatever
The world.
countries that don't wash their hands after using the toilet.
All right,
and they make direct contact, and they don't use water even. So like here, I'm literally protecting her from germs and diseases.
None of us are ever going to touch an elevator button ever again, man or woman.
And you shouldn't let your husband do it for you. That's the point I'm trying to put across. I'm okay with my immune system fighting the wars.
Okay, I appreciate that. I didn't even see it like that, but I appreciate that.
That's why I don't shake people's hands. I don't even shake men's hands.
Nobody? Just head
I
nods.
don't shake their hands.
Right.
A good number of men don't wash their hands after they pee.
That's very...
They just walk out of the washroom, and now they expect you to touch the hand that touched their thing, and it's just not cool. I don't shake their hands.
Nobody's going to be shaking hands after this episode, I think. So there's that. So respect in the sense of letting your spouse or letting your husband know that you trust his judgment. The second thing that I've heard that's common among the husbands during the coaching session is that they want to feel appreciated, and appreciated in the sense of feeling seen, right? That their accomplishments, that their efforts, that the things that they do for the family are seen. Right, so being appreciated for the little things like touching pressing the elevator button so that I don't have to, but also for the larger things of thank you so much for going to work so that now we have money for groceries, or thank you so much for dealing with a guy who came to fix the washing machine so that I don't have to deal with them, or etc. I remember there was a YouTube video. I don't remember if I shared it with you, but it was really, really very kind, very sweet. Where there was a man and a woman, husband and wife. They were in a house, and it was their CCTV inside their home that was recording, where the wife just suddenly stood up from the couch, turned towards your husband who was in the dining room and sort of gave a short speech of saying, I want to thank you so much for everything that you do. Because of what you do, I'm going to be able to go and buy my glasses tomorrow. I'm going to be able to put gas in the car tomorrow. And then she just did a long list of all the things that they'll be able to do so much better and so much easier, or at all, because of his efforts. And at the end of the speech, she just went around and she gave him a hug. And you can see that her words really landed with him. And it was very beautiful. So appreciation and making your spouse feel seen. And honestly, along those lines, I want to thank you so much for everything that you do for this podcast. I really appreciate it. Like you and I, we take maybe a couple hours to record, but then you go through and you have to edit it. And I know that takes hours and hours, week after week. So on behalf of me and on behalf of all our listeners, I want to say thank you. We appreciate that. Jazakallah khair.
You're very welcome, random citizen.
Okay, thank you. So that respect and appreciation. Yeah. Would you say that those would be did we get it right? Would those be the top two things in addition to communicating well?
Yeah.
That would make
respect is a huge deal for men. And it's not like misogynistic or anything like that. It's chivalry, you know. We used to have knights and warriors. We used to have people that were actively putting their lives on the line.
Yeah.
To protect their village on like a weekly, daily, monthly, yearly basis, you know?
Yeah.
And alhamdulillah, we don't have to live in those times where people are always at war. But we still have situations in the world that there are wars, and inshallah the wars will stop.
I mean,
but it's not a pervasive thing, right?
No.
In the entire world, we don't have a monarch that can just decide, hey, I want now you guys to go march away from your family and you have no choice in the matter and you have to do it. So men just have this natural inherent need for like masculinity. They want to feel strong, and one of the ways of doing it is by maintaining some decorum of respect from others.
Yeah. Specifically his partner, specifically his from his wife. Another thing that I would like to add, I know it's been said to me before by male coaching clients, but I've also seen, it's just that the way that men and women are socialized, right? The women, alhamdulillah, because we're given a little bit of space that our I don't think emotionality is a word, but the way that we feel is okay. It's okay for us to express the way that we feel and to seek support with regards to how we feel. And as a consequent part of that is that we are used to, on some level, receiving compliments. Definitely a lot more than men, right? But on some level, we're used to receiving compliments that somebody at some point or somewhere in our lives tells us that, you know, you're doing a good job. You know, you look really pretty today. I think you did a great job on the report, etc. For men, I have seen over and over again that just isn't the case, right? There really isn't. It isn't a part of socialization in many places, but definitely here where we grew up, where they are used to receiving those compliments, those attaboys, those you're doing great. So when you get married to this individual who's now in your house, understand that at his core is a little guy who also wants to be seen and hasn't had a chance to be seen, and who also wants to be appreciated and hasn't had a chance to be appreciated before. So when you are able to do that for him, just as a human being to another human being, there's a lot of beauty in that. So if you are listening to this podcast and you are married to a gentleman out there, who, and you have a good, healthy relationship with him, I highly recommend that you let him know that he's doing a good job, inshallah. So that brings us to the women.
The trade-off, by the way, women,
Yeah.
I know y'all have this ability, uncanny valley ability, to express yourselves, talk among yourselves, have your feelings and emotions heard, and just talk through it. But men have pockets, so I think we're okay.
Pockets?
We have pockets.
It's because you guys get better pockets than we do?
We have pockets, yeah.
Yeah. And
Some people can
you to
put
pay.
entire iPads in their pockets.
Honestly, there is nothing better than a abaya with a pocket or a dress with a pocket. That just elevates it so much. So yes, absolutely. I feel like it's fairly even. So when that brings us to the women, and I know the men usually would ask me, what is it that women actually want? What is it that I can do to make my wife happy? So I know if you have at any level done a little bit of research in the space of interpersonal relationships, particularly in marriage, you've come across the idea that men want respect and women want love, right? And the reason why that comes up so often is because there's a lot of truth to it. So when they ask what is it that women want, we also want respect, but at the top of our list is love. And again, love is a very broad term. Let's narrow it down that a woman wants to feel cherished specifically by you as her husband, right? They want to feel important to you and valued by you. That the way that her place in your life is unique and is prioritized compared to everyone else in your life. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah. And so when they ask, well, how can I make her feel this way? This is where the love languages comes in, where you're going to have to do a little bit of research and ask her questions about what is it that has made her feel loved in the past, etc. If her love language is gifts, get her gifts, right? 9 times out of 10, this doesn't have to be extravagant gifts. I remember there was one gentleman. What he did is he went to the dollar store like once a month or once every couple months and spent $50 and purchased 50 little items. Like it could be like a hair scrunchie, it could be just 50 little items. And what he would do is he would give her, whenever he'd come home from work or come home from any place, he would hand her one of these little gifts and say, I saw this and I thought of you.
Wow.
So I thought that was brilliant. I mean, you don't have to get 50, but something like that. If you're married or once you get married, please make sure you know what your wife's favorite flower is. Most women have a favorite flower, and it's important that her husband knows. And from time to time, just get her flowers. It really does mean something.
Yeah.
Right. I know many times when I'm coaching couples, the gentleman would just be confused, and they would sometimes dismiss it and say, "Why do I need to get flowers? Just get her flowers. Just get her flowers." So feeling cherished is the first thing that's very important to her.
There needs to be some lawyer speak in this because I already know some men are thinking it. We're talking about wildflowers, not the kind you find in kitchens.
Mm-hmm. Oh, okay. Flower. Okay. You know what? It's good.
Flower. Sorry, you just spelled it weird.
I did?
No, wait, yeah, you spelled it correct. Flower. I thought you were trying to spell flower and you just spelled it Flouer, and I'm like,
Okay. No, I heard you correctly. I heard you correctly. Okay, so just get her flowers. If her love language is one of the other ones, acts of service, cook her a meal from time to time, right? If you have children, spend some time by taking over one of the night routines or the morning routines for her. These are acts of service. Make sure the gas is filled. Just the things that she has to do, try to do some of them. Another one is words of affirmation. Like you don't have to write her a full poem all the time, but you can text her from time to time what she means to you. right? So we don't always just have to text each other perfunctory, can you get milk, right? What time are you going to get home? Or I'm going to be home at such and such time. From time to time, you can text each other something that means a little bit more deep. So I
Yeah.
remember for me, it is words of affirmation. So when you and I were first getting to know each other, you would write me these beautiful poems.
Hmm.
And honestly, I had no chance after I saw those poems. Tabarakallah, it was a done deal. But even on special occasions, because you know that's what it is that I like, you write me a poem on a special occasions, and I always look forward to them. Um, so it's just little things, and so on and so forth for the other love languages, including physical touch and probably missing one. So there's physical touch, the acts of service, words of affirmation, gift giving, and I think my mind is going a little bit blank, but etc.
Physical
Just look it
touch,
up.
words of affirmation, gift giving, and
Acts
acts
of
of
service.
service.
Yeah, yeah.
Is
We're
there
just gonna
more?
pretend that's
There's
all.
more. There's
I
probably more.
there's probably
There's
there's
probably more.
probably more. The
Yeah.
problem with getting over one of these colds, alhamdulillah, getting over a virus, is that there's a little bit of brain fog.
Fuzzy of the
So you don't
mind.
get to, yeah, so
Men,
you don't
I
think it's
gotta tell
clearly.
ya, it
Yeah,
it's a it. I know it's your natural instinct, but it's not an act of service to put the children up for adoption.
oh,
So
subhanAllah.
don't try it. Okay.
Yeah,
It's not an act of service to teach them how to fight wars and battles.
yeah,
Don't try it. Okay.
yeah,
Teach them football or soccer or like I don't know, math and baseball and sciences. Um, and just be a good guy, you know, like when you go out for the milk, make sure you come back. You know, it's like to be truthful to your intentions and be uphold your contracts. It's that simple.
and sorry, quality time.
And men, make sure that you have some quality time to spend with your wife.
Yes, absolutely. Which is weird because I know that one is yours. So that means just take some time out of the day to do what it is that she likes to do. You know, watch with her
Yeah.
show. Even though it's not a show that you
Hmm.
like. So it's watch, you know, she likes to take a walk with her. That's something that would be. So just take some time out where you just spend together one on one that's meaningful, you know, to her. And that's what you do. So making her feel cherished. I know we spent a lot of time on it is because I cannot tell you the number of times that I see marriages get into real trouble because of this
Yeah.
issue.
And you have to word it, by the way, the
The
invitation. When you're asking your husband, woman, this is
mm-hmm,
very important. When you're asking your husband, you got to
mm-hmm.
say take a walk. You can't say take a hike. They're going to take it the wrong way.
Oh, I'm so glad you. I'm so glad. I would definitely take that the wrong way. I'm so glad you clarified
Hmm.
that.
Hmm.
The second thing, right? The second thing, similar to men, the second thing that women want is also appreciation, but appreciation that's a little bit different. Remember, for men, we said that they want to feel seen, right? For women, definitely there's an element of wanting to feel seen, but not only to feel seen, but to be helped, to be held. Because the reality for so many different marriages, I mean, I shouldn't apply the brush to across to everybody because each marriage is unique, but for the majority of marriages that I've seen, um, there is a lot on the plate of the wife, right? So women tend to be the ones. I apologize if you hear that. There's my neighbors are doing fireworks, but there tend to be the ones who are primarily the primary caregivers for the children. Sometimes they're going to work. They still have to take care of all the house, the laundry. There's a lot on their plate. So the primary way that you can show appreciation is by taking things off of her plate, right? So definitely, just like our Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, there are so many hadiths related to how he would be in his house, where he would be, I think, more than a helper, right? He would take care of his own needs, but be in your home not only as somebody who's helping her. We did a whole episode about the mental load, so that even as you're sharing the burden of the mental load together, things that are definitely her turn to take care of from time to time, you take care of it, right? And that's a wonderful way to show appreciation, that I appreciate all the things that you do. Go and take a break, right? So for men, we said feeling respected, particularly that you trust their judgment, and that's why you respect them, and to feel appreciated primarily by being seen. And for women, feeling loved, i.e. cherished, and feeling appreciated, i.e. you by helping her. That's how you help her feel appreciated. And I really would, and I'm going to add what it is that you said for men, where you said communication, having really good communication where you are heard. So not only appreciated and seen, but also that you are heard, that your point of view is heard. I think for that is something that you can try to apply to your marriage, but understand these are generalities. Right, so we're speaking in a general sense. Just like when I asked you, what is it that men want? You gave me an answer that's different from what's on my list. For the women who are here, if you go and ask or for the married people, if you go and ask your spouse, what is it that makes you, what is it that you want? They might give you an answer that's different from what's on this list. Yeah. So the final answer, the ultimate answer of how to make your spouse happy is to ask them directly.
Just grab them by the shoulders, give them a little bit of a shake, make sure that they're scared, intimidated, and right before they call the cops, you ask them, how can I make you happy? What do you want? Their answer is most likely going to be, please let me go.
Please don't do that. Don't do that.
Now, I'll be honest with you, y'all.
Good God.
Different people will take away different things from what we said. They'll take different lessons. They'll be happy with different aspects of what we say. And hopefully, inshallah, we have some beneficial advice to give y'all. But one thing that I know is that humanity is complex, right? As we all say, it's different strokes for different folks, right? Everyone's different.
Yes.
But there are some people that can't draw at all.
Okay.
You guys are those guys are going to have a hard time.
Yeah. All right. There are no strokes for them.
Yeah.
Yeah, I get you. So ask your spouse. And in the spirit of asking, understanding that when you first get married and as time goes on, the things that will make you happy in your marriage are going to change, right? Because as human beings, we evolve. It's dynamic, and just as you are not who you are this year, who you are this year is different from who you were last year. The same is true for your spouse. So you want to sort of update the information that you have. And a really great way to do that is to have check-ins. Yeah. Yeah. So this could be weekly, it could be monthly, it could be whatever it is that you feel like you need in your marriage to be able to have the information that you need. I know when we first got married, we did this weekly and it was really annoying to you. So we switched this up to monthly or once every few months, right? Yeah. And that's perfectly fine as long as each of us has the information that we need. There's many different types of questions that I know that we asked a very long list of questions in the very beginning when we got married that I compiled from multiple different sources. And we've narrowed it all the way down to just 2 questions each time. Right? Just 2 questions to get the gist of what it is. So the first question...
A filter and a funnel.
Huh?
It's a filter and a funnel.
Yeah. Yeah? Yeah. So the first question I ask is, since the last time, when did you feel the most loved? That's it. And then you'll answer. Each of us will give our answer. And the second question is, since the last time we asked this question, can you think of anything you wish I would do less of? Right? So this is like a diplomatic way of asking, when were you most annoyed? What is it that I did that annoyed you most, right? Because you want to have a good idea of what is it that worked or what that was special to your spouse, and what is it that was really kind of annoying. And honestly, whenever we do this, I'm always surprised by the answers. I'm
Yeah,
always,
and sometimes I'm just a little wild. I'm a wild and wacky guy.
yeah. Yeah, like it'll usually it's something it'll be the little things that I don't even notice that will have a really big meaning for you. And quite sometimes it'll be the little things that I didn't notice that you really didn't like, right? And vice versa. Vice versa. So this is how to do the check-ins. When you do your check-ins, one of the people sometimes, because we really want to make our marriage work, individuals will have done the same research that I did when I was getting married and will have come up with their lists. And I've seen sometimes couples will turn it into a very clinical experience where we're going to sit down and have our meeting once a week at the dining room table. Here's your notepad, here's my notepad, and we're going to go through point by point. All right. That might work for some people, but the pattern that I have noticed is that the other person, the one who didn't come up with the list, usually the other person tends to be the man, but sometimes it's still a man. But the other person can be really exhausted by this, right? Can be really exhausted and can find the whole exercise to be repetitive and somewhat annoying. And if that's the case, then that's not something you really want. That's not really something that's going to be helpful in the way that you want it to be helpful. When you ask them, what is the thing that you would feel that I would do less of, they might answer this meeting, right? So the way that I recommend that couples approach is to have your check-ins in as informal a setting as possible, to pare down your questions to the ones that you really feel like would make the biggest impact on your marriage. Alhamdulillah, we got it down to just the 2 questions. And in such a way that it doesn't feel like a meeting, right? It feels more
Yeah,
like a conversation. A
the
conversation.
questions may not be exactly our questions. Also, they may differ. For
Hmm.
example, Michael Scott and Jan, they
Yes.
may have different questions. One question might be, "Why are you the way that you are?"
Did they say that in the show? This is from The Office, for those who aren't familiar.
Yeah, yeah, no, of course he says that. He doesn't say it to Jan. He
Yeah.
says it to Toby. He
Oh, yeah,
says,
that's right.
"Why are you the way that you are?"
He does say that. So that's one of our catchphrase, one of our catchphrases. Uh, it was from Toad. It was from The Office. You're right.
Yeah.
No, not those type of questions. Try not to ask those questions. Try to stick to the ones that will add to your marriage, inshallah.
I had a random thought as well.
Yeah.
Because earlier you said I was a wild and wacky guy. No,
Mm-hmm.
I said that, and you agreed.
Okay.
Um, I think one of the most useless phrases in the world
Mm-hmm.
is starting off a sentence with "when I was younger."
How come? Because you're always younger. Is that why?
Yeah, you're always younger. You
Okay.
should be saying when I was when I was this age or this many years ago, right?
Yeah.
But I could be like, when I was younger, I told you one of the most useless phrases in the world was "when I was younger."
Okay. All right. Okay. You know if this
See what
is
I
the
mean?
same. Yeah. This
It
is the
doesn't relate
same.
any time frame. It just
This
says
is
in the past.
That's true. This is the same vibe as when people say, "I'll see you tomorrow," and they say, "No, no, it's already today. It's 12:01." It's that same vibe. The
No, that has
technicality.
practical sense. That's just reminding the person that they've lost sense of time and reality. They really should
Yes,
stay grounded in this world.
absolutely.
They didn't even realize that it was 12:01. They didn't even realize it was the next day. They said, "I'll see you tomorrow." That
Uh
just
huh.
means that you don't want to see the person for like 23 hours and 59 minutes. Like that's insane. How much hate do you have to tell a person, "I don't want to see you for 23 hours and 59 minutes"?
I feel like you feel very strongly about this, and
Yeah.
I can appreciate that.
That I want to fight back against those people that will say, I will see you tomorrow," and then that just like, oh, what's funnier is when you respond with "not if I see you" first.
Okay.
And people think that's like, oh, if I see you first, I'm gonna see you tomorrow, and I'm gonna say hi. No, it's the funny
It's a
thing is
whole.
like they say, not if I see you first means if I see you first, I'm not going up to you. I'm running away from you. You will not see me tomorrow. And I feel like that's just perfectly passive aggressive.
It's. I think it's aggressive aggressive. But let's
It's
let's
it's
move.
aggressive aggressive, but the people are not smart enough to realize it's aggressive aggressive, so it ends up being passive aggressive.
There. All right, that works out. So if we get
Yeah.
if we get to this week's questions, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, and then that just as always. So these questions are going to be from the Muslim marriage subreddit. Um, and there's two of them. They're actually fairly short this week. I'll go through the first one. Yeah,
Yeah.
we're same page. All right, I understood everything that you said previously, and I thought it was really funny. But I was was worried that humor would be unique to me. That's why I sort of skipped through it. We're good.
Oh yeah, no, of course. We will skip through it because I know that you laughed and then that makes me laugh and then it just ends up being circular laughing.
Okay, all
Like
right.
a merry-go-round.
There you go.
Circular laughing. It's a merry-go-round.
Okay, all right, all right. So okay, so Alhamdulillah, we're good. Right, so it's like that's an example of just being in tune with how your spouse feels. If you feel like they're a little bit off, to check in with them, make sure that everything's okay. So that was a good example. We're ready for the next question.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. So this is from a gentleman, and he says, "I'm thinking of divorcing my wife because she doesn't make me happy anymore." Right?
Mm.
Um, he says, "I don't feel happy with my wife anymore. I feel like we are just roommates. She just works, comes home, cooks, and then watches a TV show till nighttime. She is rarely up for intimacy or conversations. I'm not a saint myself. Lately, I have developed strong feelings for another woman who is everything I wish my wife was. Very smart, humorous, attentive, and caring. I attempted to distance myself from her, but I failed. This has led me to question my marriage and if I should divorce my wife. Everything she says to me irritates me now. I don't know if it's the shaitan playing tricks with me or what." So, what do you think about this situation?
All right, first of all, the guy says that his wife also works, and then after she works, she cooks for him, right?
Yeah,
And then after she cooks for him, then she watches TV. Now I
yeah,
know from experience of watching you, cooking could sometimes take a long time, right? It could
yeah,
take like an hour, 2 hours, 3 hours. It could take a while. Cooking is an art form, and it's understandable that when she gets home from work and then she immediately cooks for the family,
yeah,
that she wants to relax for a little while. What's less understandable is the lack of communication, lack of intimacy, that kind of deal.
yeah,
Um, the it is sort of one-sided story at the moment because we don't know, and he doesn't tell us what errors that he would have made. Right?
mm-hmm.
He's making it seem as if when it comes to him and his wife at the home, that he's the perfect husband, right?
Yeah,
But now at his workplace, he's talking with this woman who's not his wife, which is a big no-no, right?
yeah,
Of course, it's going to lead to those feelings. Like that's the whole point of not talking to the other gender
mm-hmm.
without any intention of getting married, right?
Yeah,
Because of course it will lead to familiarity, which leads to attraction, which leads to the wanting to either divorce or do some secretive promise breaking. You know,
yeah, yeah,
he really should tell another coworker of his
mm-hmm.
and say, "Look, I'm struggling with this. I would like you, if you see me talking with her, to just pull me away or like keep me away from her." Right? Just
Yeah, yeah,
he needs some sort of accountability. In that he needs someone watching them. Right? Uh, like some sort of quote unquote mahram type figure
Yeah.
that's watching them and saying, no, 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 this is not business conversation. You just gotta get out away from that situation, right?
Yeah.
And of course, he already recognizes it. It's the shaitan talking. The shaitan's talking. The most favored of the sins, aside from shirk, for the shaitan, is like divorce. You know, like if
Splitting
he
up.
can break apart a
Yeah.
married couple, he gives he gives the other little shaitan and jinn, he gives them reward. Like, oh, you divorced this family,
Yeah.
amazing. Here, come have a hug or something like that. You know, he gives them a reward that they want,
Yeah.
and a divorce in the eyes of Allah is the most hated permissible act.
Yeah.
So of course the shaitan's he's gonna favor that, right?
Yeah.
Um, and of course he is going to whisper into your ear, into your heart, and he's gonna say, she's talking again. Look at the way she talks to you. Her voice is just, it's not pleasant to the ears. Ugh. Just you leave her, leave her. You need to leave her immediately. She's not for you. Why do you even get married to her? What were you thinking? You know, you were not thinking with your mind there. You were not thinking with you. She's nothing to you. Just leave her. Look, that lady over there. She's more beautiful. You should go to her. You know, it's the
Yeah.
shaitan. He's just whispering to you, and you have to recognize that, right?
Yeah.
What you got to do in the fight against the shaitan is you tell the shaitan, look, if you're going to try to make me do this thing, right,
Mm-hmm.
this haram, I'm not going to do that. In matter of fact, I'm going to do more of these halal things so that the shaitan, it's going to realize every time I tell this person to not pray, he
Mm-hmm.
instead prays and then does the additional optional prayers, and then he reads Quran for an hour and a half. So why am I telling him to not pray? No, no, no. I'm gonna wake him up for Fajr. I'm gonna make him pray, right?
Yeah.
And then
Yeah.
that way he doesn't do the optional stuff out of revenge for me. He'll
Yeah.
just do the Fajr prayer, right? The shaitan will think like that. You know,
Yeah.
if he can't convince you to do the evil
Mm-hmm.
deeds, he'll convince you to do the lesser of the good deeds. If
Yeah.
he can't convince you to do the lesser of the good deeds, he'll
Mm-hmm.
convince you to do the good deeds, but just a little different, like just a little. No, yeah, you know, you've already prayed Fajr. You don't need to do the optional prayers. That's optional, you know.
Yeah.
He's always fighting against you, so you need to fight back.
All right. He'll take whatever win he can get.
Yeah,
I understand. And I agree wholeheartedly with everything that you said. With this gentleman, if we take apart, like if we just put to the side for a moment, and I'm sorry, and it's important that we clarify that everything you said with respect to divorce, this is within the context of both of us having been previously divorced, right? So we
yeah,
understand. Okay, so for this gentleman in this question, if you put aside for a moment the element of this new person that he's with, and we just focus on his marriage with his wife, marriage is, I don't want to say it's fragile, right? But requires upkeep. And if you just let it go, right? It's like a house. It's like a house. It requires daily efforts, daily maintenance in order to keep it running smoothly. If you just sit and don't take care of your home, if you don't take care of your home, it's going to fall apart through one of many different ways. In this case, the path that was taken is by bringing in an element of infidelity. Not even we don't know what he's done. Maybe he hasn't done anything, but an outside person, right? So it's important to continuously put effort into your marriage, into your spouse. And this is something that has to be done consciously. This goes back to those check-ins that we spoke about, right? This goes back to the communication, the regular communication that you have between you and your spouse. A number of different things could be going on here with their dynamic, where the wife comes home, she does a bunch of work, cooks, and then sits down and watches TV. There's a level of disconnect there, right? We don't know what is the source of that disconnect, but in order to figure out what it is, this is going to require some communication, that you have to be sensitive to something's up. You have to be sensitive to that. It's like something's up. Things are not the same way that they were before. Maybe one or both of them is feeling depressed and is going through something, right? They maybe it could be a number of different factors. Maybe they're feeling stressed based on something at work. Maybe there is some kind of misunderstanding where she has seen something in him or he has seen something in her, and that is introducing a level of disconnect. Maybe she found out about the other person, right? It could be that she found a text, social media post, something that suggests to her that her husband is now with somebody else and she's disconnected a little bit. So it could be a number of things. And to figure out what that is going to require some communication. And if you don't leave those lines of communication open between you and your spouse so that each of you feels heard, right? Heard in a genuine and sincere way. And that you are not, each of you is not responding to try to meet each other's emotional needs. And that will change through your lifetime. This disconnect will happen, right? And after it happens, a number of things can result from that. In this case, what it looks like that happened is this gentleman is developing some level of contempt for the situation. And he is now justifying within himself of why it's okay to go and be with someone else. Now let's talk about the someone else. Why is it that it tends to feel better with this new person than it does with your current spouse?
It's the devil. It's the shaitan. The grass
Yeah.
is always greener on the other side, because that's like you literally have a salesman that's always whispering to you, right? You don't. It's
Yeah.
not something that you're trying to rationale.
Yeah.
It's something that's being sold to you. You know.
Yeah. And
Um.
I
Yeah.
think
The grass is always greener on the other side.
I think it's also important to understand the reality of why that is, right? To understand the reality of why that is. Because when you are with your spouse, the two of you share a number of responsibilities. That you are accountable to your spouse in a way that you're accountable to no one else. That you rely on each other for finances, emotionally, for taking care not only of each other but other family members, of children. The amount of responsibilities is huge. It's huge. Not everyone can handle that, but it is huge.
Mm-hmm.
And with that responsibility, again, comes a level of accountability. Now, when you meet a new person who expects nothing from you, and there is no accountability, and there is no responsibility, it's going to feel better simply for that reason, even if they never said a word to you.
Yeah.
Right? Because you can now sort of live in a different version of yourself who is more free with this person. There
Yeah.
is a falseness to that. The reason why that's false is if he were to divorce his wife and marry this new person, guess what happens? He now has to
You
share
get
all
grass
these.
greener syndrome again.
Yeah, you just now, all of those responsibilities you were running away from with your wife now show up again with this new person. Because when you get married,
Mm-hmm.
finances come into play, children come into play, in-laws, everything comes back onto the table.
Yeah.
And you are now going to be in the reality of, oh no, what have I done? Right?
Mm-hmm.
This relationship also doesn't feel good anymore. Let me go
Yeah.
find a third person. This happens. Like if you when you are having difficulty in your marriage, and if we dig a little bit, part of that difficulty is having all of this responsibility and accountability. And you meet somebody new. That somebody new is a mirage. It's a mirage. It's
Yeah.
not real. Yeah, it's not real. A big part of how you feel about them is related to not having the same expectations of you that you is required from you as a husband or required from you as a wife. So it's a mirage.
Yeah.
Yeah. So don't fall
Intimacy
for
also
it.
plays a part there, because he did say that she hasn't, um, she's been rejecting him in his advances, right?
Yeah.
Yeah,
This is
and there is a reason why it's a big deal in Islam for women when they reject their husband's advances, right?
Mm-hmm.
Um, Allahu A'lam, Allah knows best with regards to marriage,
Mm-hmm.
and Allah knows the man's nature, and the man has that need, right?
Yeah.
And marriage is half the deen
Yes.
because it keeps those aspects of haram away, right? It
Yes.
makes halal what's normally haram, right?
Yes.
And it allows both the man and the woman to focus on serving Allah, right? To
Yeah.
focus on their deen. And if the woman denies the man
Mm-hmm.
that, it's going to drive him straight into another woman's arms.
Yeah, but that's not an excuse.
It's not an excuse for the man, of course, because the man should be fasting, right? He should be fasting. If he has any of those desires and he has no place, right?
Yeah.
He should be. It's a test for him as well, right?
Yeah, but it's again, we don't know what the circumstances are. Well, we, like you said, we don't have the whole story. But it could be, like we said, it could be that maybe she found out that he was with somebody else, right? And simply finding
It could
out,
be, but if she found out about that, then she should take it to like the imam or to the family or
yeah,
counseling or something, right?
yeah.
She shouldn't take matters into her own hands.
No, I understand what you're saying, but it, again, it we need a lot more information before we
Mm-hmm.
can place honestly any of the blame on her, or place
Oh,
any of the
no one's
blame
blaming.
on
Yeah,
him.
no one's blaming
So
her.
yeah, to place any of the blame on her or him, we would need a lot more information. But we're using
Yeah.
this situation as an example to illustrate some important points in marriage of how, if you are not checking with your spouse, if you're not leaving those communication lines of communication open, how things can deteriorate. Definitely, there is an aspect of yeah, there is an aspect when I say disconnection, not just emotional disconnection, but also physical disconnection, right? That's probably a big issue here, a big issue here. And that needs to be solved again within the context of looking at how to reestablish connection overall. Like, I don't think it's isolated. I don't think it's isolated to one versus the other. Is it emotional or physical? Like, if there had been no emotional connection, but there was continued to be a physical connection, I don't think their situation would be any better. Like, does that make sense? Like, I don't think
Yeah,
it
it
is
makes sense.
only yeah, I don't think
It
it's
makes
only a
sense
matter.
in that regard.
Yeah.
It makes sense in that regard, but he, like, I can only speak for myself.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I think it would be an improvement there at the very least because here right now there's no emotional connection and there's no physical connection. So at the very least having a physical connection, even if there's no emotional connection, is better than not having both.
I understand that. Right? I understand that. But there's hadiths that explain where the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi
Sallallahu alaihi
wasallam
wasallam.
was telling the Sahaba that, like, I can't repeat it here, but the general idea is that you need to be kind to your wife if you're going to be expecting anything from her, right? So there is a level of just humanizing the other individual and really respecting their ability to just really respecting their humanity, right? So this is probably a more complex situation than we are giving it credit, and goes beyond the scope of what it is that we want to cover in this podcast. But with respect to communication, as a vehicle for maintaining connection, emotional and physical connection, if you don't take care of it, if you don't maintain it, if you don't invest time in it, then it breaks down, it will lead to the breakdown of everything else. So that, I think that's the underlying root cause of what happened here, is that they're not talking to each other in the way that they hear each other. That they need to sit down with somebody who can hear and understand both of them and translate to each one what the other one is saying. I think that's what needs to be done here, to see what it is that happened, that what is the source of this disconnect, right? And as the two of them are able to find their way back to each other, everything else follows as a result of that. Yeah, everything else
Yeah.
follows. So inshallah,
The one
that
thing
makes
that we
sense.
know,
Yeah.
the one thing that we do know
Mm-hmm.
is that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala,
Mm-hmm.
He makes it so that if the husband and the wife
Yes.
wish to reconcile and they talk to each other, like counseling, right? And
Yeah.
they actually have that desire to reconcile,
Yeah.
Allah will bring their hearts back together.
Yeah. Which is why any time I'm coaching I'm coaching a woman, right? Because now I coach exclusively women, who is married, on how to help her bring peace back into her marriage. The very first question I ask is, because if she's approaching me, it means that she wants reconciliation. And the way that I ask about her husband is, does he care about your well-being? Does he want you to be okay? It seems like a simple question, but the amount of times that I hear no or I don't know is heartbreaking, right? And when somebody doesn't care about your well-being, or you're not absolutely sure that he does, there's really nothing that anyone can do, right? That's something that
There
can,
is something I can suggest.
yeah.
If she says no, she can try to
Mm-hmm.
figure out what his love languages are, because maybe they're communicating on different planes.
Yeah, when I say nothing that anyone can do, that's wrong. I take that back. There's nothing that I can do, right? It's definitely goes
Mm.
definitely above my pay grade. And often I will redirect her to therapists or counselors, depending on her
Typically,
region, that I
I
know
would
work well.
ask, like,
Yeah.
if I were in your position, to be honest, I don't have the
Mm-hmm.
amount of expertise as you do, right? So, as a layman, I can only answer as a layman.
Mm-hmm.
I would ask her about the whole love language aspect. Like, okay, well, did you guys figure out each other's love language? Maybe you guys are not talking amongst each other in the correct languages.
Yeah.
Because some men will try to express their love by working and making sure that there's food on the table, and they'll put all their energy into that.
Mm-hmm.
But they won't be getting her gifts or anything like that. They won't be talking to her with affirmations, right? Affirmatives, and she won't feel loved, right? She's just like, this guy's not even buying me flowers. He's not saying this. I don't feel loved. And then she might answer no in that case, right? But maybe he's like, I'm doing all this. Of course I love you. I'm working my butt off, you know?
Mm-hmm.
And the second thing, I think she could perhaps ask him, say, hey, would you like to reconcile? Like, where would you like us to be
Mm-hmm.
in our marriage? Like, would you like us to try to figure out why we're having a hard time communicating
Mm-hmm.
or what seems to be going wrong?
Yeah.
And then if he says, yeah, sure, I actually would like that,
Mm-hmm.
then they can go to like counseling or therapy or things like that, right? But
Yeah.
if he says like, no, I'd rather not, like, I don't see any problems with our marriage, she would be like, okay, well, I do have some issues, and I think honestly we should probably sit down and I can try to tell you about them and see maybe if we can come to like terms with it, like a solution. Maybe we can work towards a better goal.
Yeah. So this is just as an aside, right? As a tangent. But I agree with you. That's why I asked the question as not, does your husband love you? Right? I asked the question of, does he care about your well-being? Because
Mm-hmm.
if a person is going out to work every day, it's still something that you can sense. Do you see what I
Yeah.
mean? Versus is whether or not a person cares about your well-being, or if they're indifferent to your well-being, just
Mm-hmm.
completely indifferent, or in some terrible cases wish you harm.
Yeah.
It's very different. So the cases that you spoke about are usually the ones that I coach. The ones who will say, "Yeah, I would say he does care about my well-being, but I don't feel
Mm-hmm.
loved. I don't feel heard in this relationship, right?" And then they will give some qualifiers that indicate that it might be an issue related to love language. But
Yeah.
you most people can understand and sense when they are not wanted, they're
That's where
actively
my
not
lack of
wanted.
experience came in, because
Yeah.
I thought cared about your well-being meant the same as love you.
In many places it does.
Thinking on it now, though, it doesn't.
Yeah, yeah, but it's like as human being, a human to human, do they want you to be okay?
Mhm.
Because even us
Yeah.
walking around and we see random people, I don't know, at any of the stores, any grocery store, we want those random people to be okay. We care about their well-being.
I
So
think I
if
actually found the perfect example.
uh-huh.
I think I actually found the perfect example.
Yes.
Um, if a person sees you fall and break your arm,
Oh no.
and they call an ambulance for you, they
Yeah.
love you.
Okay.
But if they drive you to the hospital, they care about your well-being.
All right. There you
Because
go.
ambulance costs money.
It's true. This is true. They're like, you know what? I can't. Yeah, I can't. Oh, I would rather spend the gas on you.
Yeah.
That makes sense. So that's the aside for that part. And honestly, I think we covered most things. We had a second question, but I think we've made the points that we want to make here in this podcast today. That to make your spouse happy, it's going to require constant, like regular updating of information of who they are, what their emotional needs are, and what is it that makes them feel respected and appreciated, cherished, and also appreciated, right? Depending if you're and these are true for if you're a man or a woman, um, inshallah. And without good communication habits, there becomes the opportunity for the shaitan to come in, or there comes the opportunity for any number of external factors to come in, and to lead to the breakdown of your marriage. So the key to a good, happy, healthy relationship is healthy communication habits. And with those communication habits, you can each meet each other's emotional needs and inshallah make your spouse happy.
Inshallah.
All right, I think we tied that up nicely.
Yeah, this episode covered a very tough topic.
Yeah, I think it's important.
Yeah, and the question was exceptionally difficult to answer. There's so much information that we're missing.
Yeah, but if you, I 100% agree with you that this could have been a series, a series of episodes, right? It could be
Mhm.
episodes for. I wanted to really stay away from because I know for many of their coaches, especially in the secular world, they ask a lot of questions of how do I make him like me, or how do I make her like me, and how do I keep her interested? How do I keep him interested? I think that
Mhm.
it doesn't really apply, right? Like the answers that are
Mhm.
usually given there are pretty superficial, and are used for the context outside of marriage. And when you come,
Yeah, it's weird.
yeah, when you come in, because when you are looking for somebody and you're in a talking stage, either they already like you or they already don't. That's it, right?
Mhm.
You just have to accept the fact that in order to build a happy, healthy marriage with somebody, you're not going to be able to convince them to like you. And
Yeah.
you're not going to be able to.
One of the dumbest pieces of advice I've ever heard given to men
Yes.
is after your first outing where you talk to them, they would call it a date,
Yeah.
right? After your first conversation, don't text her for at least 24 hours. Hello? Are you playing games?
Yeah.
What's going on here? Why are you trying to be shallow like that?
Yeah.
Just like, why are you trying to entice them with some sort of mind game? Like right off the bat, you're playing mind games against each other. That's weird.
Yeah.
Just be open. Just be straightforward.
Yeah, absolutely. Like, I think actually we probably should do an episode on that aspect when you're searching for a spouse, and how that whole mindset of of the mind games and how do I make them like me, why none of that works.
Mm.
So it'll be a short episode because the answer is none of this works. Don't do any of it.
Yeah, none of it works. Don't do any of it.
But
Literally.
I think it would be worth it to do that because it's an important lesson, to cut out the noise of so much of the other content that's out there. But within the context of marriage, the short answer is to ask your spouse directly, right? And work to meet each other's emotional needs, and keep those lines of communications open. And if you are newly married or if you are young, like that's why I gave the general responses. And you are not yet married and you're just wondering what is the perspective that I should have, the approach that I should have. As we're establishing our marriage, you can't go wrong if you're by showing your husband that you trust his judgment and respect him, and that you see and appreciate his efforts. And you can't go wrong by showing your wife that she is cherished by you, that you love and cherish her, and that you are appreciating her by helping her. Right? Those are just general rules of thumb that can really help. But the actual answer is ask them regularly with check-ins and keep those lines of communication open. I know I keep repeating it, but without these things in place, that house will fall apart, that marriage will fall apart. Okay. So I think that brings us to the end. Is there anything that you want to add?
No, that was very aptly surmised. I appreciate that. And I appreciate you.
Oh, Jazakallah khair. Thank you so much. I appreciate you. Okay, so Jazakallah khair. If you've made it this far, thank you so much. We really appreciate all the support that we're getting from our audience. We have one of the best audiences, alhamdulillah. If you haven't already subscribed,
Sounded
please
like
subscribe.
Donald Trump right there.
Did I? Right?
We got some of the best audiences.
Actually, it was not on purpose. It was completely unintentional. But if you haven't already subscribed, please subscribe. It really helps us to get our message out there, right? If you're a young woman and you are searching for a spouse and you happen to be using the matrimonial apps, but you are confused and exhausted by the said matrimonial apps, I run a free live webinar where I teach women. We use the word dating because that's the word that's understood by people, but I call it dating app strategies that actually work. So I teach you the strategies that have worked for me and that work for my clients, 1 hour long. I will leave the link in the about section of this YouTube channel. And it will also be on my Instagram page at Zahra Hassan Coaching. So that's everything. Jazakallah khair. Thank you so much for listening all the way to the end. We'll see you next time, and assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum salam.